Welcome back to Mixing Up Success. I'm your host, Dani, and today we're diving into the recipe every small business owner needs. The 5 ingredients that make your business not only successful, but sustainable and fulfilling. Just like in baking, it's not about throwing everything in the bowl. It's about balance, timing, and consistency. So let's preheat that entrepreneurial oven and talk about each of these ingredients. Starting with mission. Your mission is your why. It's the heartbeat of your business, the reason you show up, even on the hard days. And for me, that mission didn't start out clear or strategic. It started with creativity, curiosity, and honestly, a need to decompress. When I started Dani's Kitchen Shop, my mission was pretty simple: create cookie art that enhanced celebrations and gave me a creative outlet. I was working full time as a food safety manager, and decorating cookies became a way to relieve some stress. It was meditative. It still is, and I often get comments on how meditative it is to watch my social media channels. But in the beginning, I wasn't thinking about branding or scaling a business. I was just doing something I loved. The funny thing is, Dani's Kitchen Shop wasn't even supposed to be about cookies. Years before, when I built my first business plan, it was for a teaching kitchen and a retail space, a place where I could teach culinary classes without lugging in all of the ovens and cooktops. So when I began selling cookies in 2019, 4 years after officially forming the business, there was no mission statement. There was no plan. It was just, this is fun, this is creative, and maybe I can make a little extra income for my family. But by 2021, things changed. Just 2 years into cookie making, I was baking hundreds of cookies a month and realized this could be more than just a creative outlet. This could be something real, like that business I dreamed of having one day. I leaned back into the original dream of a teaching kitchen and began to imagine how this could become my full-time work. My informal mission back then was just to make beautiful cookies that people loved and hopefully profit enough to support my family, while doing something fulfilling for myself. Over time, my mission evolved, and it still does. Each year, I revisit it based on where I'm at and where I want to go next. But at its roots, my mission has always come back to 3 things: finding joy in my work, beauty in what I create, and sustainability for my family. That's the heartbeat of Dani's Kitchen Shop: finding joy, sharing creativity, and building something that sustains our life. When I lose focus, and trust me, it happens, I pause and ask myself, why am I doing this in the first place? I'm not here to get rich. I'm not here to sell out. I am here to build something sustainable, a business that gives me purpose, flexibility, and joy. And that's exactly why I now teach mission, vision, and values as my very first step in my business course. Because when you have those 3 things defined clearly, they become your filter. Every new idea, partnership, or opportunity can be measured against them. You can ask, Does this align with my mission? Does this move me closer to my vision? Does it fit with my values? That simple clarity saves you from burnout and helps you grow with intention instead of just momentum. Over time, I've refined my mission into something that feels deeply true to who I am and what Danny's Kitchen Shop has become today. My mission is to inspire connection and creativity through handcrafted cookies, culinary classes, and small business mentoring, empowering others to create meaningful experiences, joyful memories, and brands that truly shine. My vision is to be a trusted and inspiring destination where creativity, community, and business growth rise together through cookies, classes, and coaching that help people share their stories and radiate their brilliance. And the core values that guide everything I do are creativity with purpose. Every cookie, class, and piece of content is designed to inspire, connect, or empower. Community first, from local customers to online students, I want everyone to feel like they belong. Craft and care, quality, intentionality, and handmade excellence are at the heart of everything I do. Empowerment through education, teaching, mentoring, and sharing generously so others can thrive. Authentic storytelling, because every brand, every cookie, and every kitchen memory is worth celebrating. That's what keeps me centered, even when business gets messy or unpredictable. Coming back to the why behind it all. So, if you're listening and realizing you've never actually written down your mission, that's okay. We all start somewhere. But take a few minutes this week to reflect on what your business is really about. What's your why? What lights you up? And what do you want to do? And what do you want your work to mean to others? Because when you define that, you'll have the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about today: brand, systems, pricing, and community. Speaking of which, let's move on to ingredient number 2, your brand, the flavor of your business. All right, we've talked about your mission and your why. Now let's move into the next ingredient in this recipe for business success: your brand. I like to think of branding as the flavor of your business. It's how people experience you and how they remember you. When I first started Dani's Kitchen Shop, I didn't spend a lot of time on branding. I did invest in a logo because I wanted something to feel like a guiding force, something that represented me. I've always been drawn to greens, so I picked out a few shades that felt right and started from there. But honestly, beyond that, I didn't have a full color palette or a brand guide. Was just creating as I went. Over time, I started to notice the patterns, the tones, the words, and the images that felt most like me. Eventually, I pulled those pieces together and created a brand guide. It's about 14 pages long or so, and mostly it's used for my team. Because after spending the first 6 years writing every single caption, blog post, and piece of marketing content myself, It was surprisingly easy to build a guide that reflected my authentic brand voice. I just pulled from everything I had already written, 6 years of words straight from my heart. And because it was authentically mine, it made sharing my brand with others or my team so much easier. When I started, I had one rule for myself: stay positive and try to be inspiring. That's it. That was my entire brand strategy. And honestly, that simple rule guided me for years because everything I shared came from a place of optimism, encouragement, and creativity. And even now, after developing a full brand book, that tone still runs through everything I do. For me, branding has always been about authenticity and consistency. Whether you're building a personal brand or a product based one, those two things matter most. If you're authentic, people feel it. And if you're consistent, people remember you. You can have the most beautiful logo or packaging in the world, but what really connects people to your brand is how it makes them feel. People don't just buy products, they buy stories, connection, and trust. As Dani's kitchen shop grew, so did my brand's reach. What started as a cookie business evolved into teaching, mentoring, and community building. Over the past year, I've leaned even deeper into sharing my ideas and experiences, not just through cookies and classes, but through mentoring other small businesses. I've launched my first business course, Radiate and Thrive, and this coming January, I'll be teaching my second course, The Business of Baking. It's designed for bakers who want to turn their creative passion into a sustainable, thriving business. And outside of the classroom, I've built a community of entrepreneurial women here in the Gorge, a group founded on one of my favorite African proverbs. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That belief in collaboration and community has become a cornerstone of my brand because I truly believe we are meant to do this together, to learn from one another, share knowledge, and lift each other up. So when it comes to your own brand, ask yourself, what's the emotional flavor of my business? How do I want people to feel when they interact with it? And am I showing up consistently and authentically in every space? Because whether your brand is built around your personality or your product, it needs to be rooted in truth. Authenticity and consistency are what make a brand memorable and meaningful. Okay, so far we've covered mission, your why, and brand, your flavor. Now let's talk about the structure that holds everything together: systems. One of my favorite topics. Systems aren't the most glamorous part of running a business, but they are absolutely essential. Think of them as the recipe card for your business, the part that tells you what to do, when, and in what order. You can have all of the right ingredients, but without a process, things get messy really fast. I really started integrating systems when I began growing my team. When you're managing everything yourself, you have a pulse on pretty much everything. You know where every detail lives, what's been done, and what hasn't. But the second you bring in other people, that changes. That's when systems become critical. I started building mine when I hired my lead baker, Mercedes. I needed a way to feed her information without spending all of my time explaining things or answering questions. Now, I'll be the first to say growing a team and systems is an investment. It takes time, trust, and patience. You can't expect it to work perfectly overnight. Over the past 3 years, Mercedes and I have worked together to develop systems that help me share creative ideas clearly and help her manage production smoothly. For example, every Monday morning, I set the bake schedule based on our cookie orders for that week. I map out which cookie cutters we're using, what shapes and how many need to be cut, and what colors of icing need to be made, along with which consistencies. For holidays, we plan our designs well in advance and fill out a shared spreadsheet that helps us build production schedules so that each week we know what to expect. And because we pre-sell our cookies, we always know what to make, which helps us avoid overbaking. But honestly, at this point, we're usually underbaking and selling out, which is what happens when you build a brand with real demand. These systems give us structure, and structure creates freedom. Once our production and communication systems were in place, I could focus more of my time on creative direction, classes, and growing the mentoring side of my business. I didn't have to worry about every single detail because there was a clear process for everything. If you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure where to start with systems, here's what I'd recommend. Start small. Choose one area of your business that feels chaotic. Maybe it's your ordering. Write it down. Just list out the steps you take every time you do that particular task. Then look for ways to simplify or delegate. Create tools that work for you. You don't need complicated software. A simple Google Sheet, a shared folder, or even a notebook can do the job. My first systems were ordering because I was losing my mind trying to keep track of orders and get information. So I created a Google form that feeds into a Google Sheet, and at a glance, I can know what I have on my weekly schedule for orders. Once you have those, you keep refining your systems and figure out what works and what needs to be tweaked. You just review regularly and adjust as needed. Systems aren't about taking away creativity, they actually protect it. When your systems are strong, you have the freedom to be creative, to innovate, and to scale. You can focus on what you love instead of constantly putting out fires. So take a look at your business this week. What part feels disorganized or draining? Where do you repeat yourself the most? What could someone else take over if it were written down clearly? Start there. Build one small system, then another. And before you know it, your business will start to run smoother with more time and energy left for the parts you actually enjoy. Okay, so we've talked about your mission, your why, your brand, your flavor, and now your systems, the structure that holds it all together. Well, next, Let's talk about one of the most emotional ingredients in any small business recipe: pricing. We'll spend a whole episode on this later, but it is a really important ingredient to think about. So we're going to touch on it today. Pricing can feel personal, uncomfortable, and even emotional, but it's also one of the most practical and powerful tools in your business. When I started selling cookies, I'll be honest, I didn't spend a lot of time figuring out my price strategy. I charged just enough to cover my costs and make a little extra for fun money. I wasn't depending on that income, and honestly, I didn't have the skill or the experience yet to charge more. I was still learning. I was building my confidence, developing my technique, and figuring out what my time was worth. Fast forward 7 years. Today, I sell my cookies for about 240% more than I did when I started. And that growth didn't happen by accident. It came from experience, confidence, and constantly improving both my product and my systems. Plus, let's be honest, ingredients just keep going up. Have you bought butter lately? Pricing has to evolve with reality. Here's the thing about pricing: you have to start somewhere, and you have to know who you're selling to. Understanding your customer base and your market is key. You need to know what your audience values and what they're willing to pay for. For me, I learned that my customers weren't just buying cookies, they were buying art, personalization, and the joy of celebrating something special. Once I understood that, I stopped trying to compete on price and started pricing based on value. Let's talk numbers for a second. Every product has three basic costs categories: one, ingredients and supplies, what it literally costs you to make the product; two, labor, your time or your team's time; and three, overhead, packaging, utilities, insurance, marketing, all the behind the scenes costs. Add all of that up and then add a profit margin that allows you to sustain your business and pay yourself fairly. If your prices don't make room for profit, you're building a hobby, not a business. So, how do you know when it's time to raise your prices? Here are a few signs. You're booked out constantly and turning away work. You're exhausted, but your income isn't matching your effort. Your costs have gone up, like butter, eggs, packaging, you name it. You've improved your skill, product quality, or brand recognition. If any of those sound familiar, it's probably time. Have you reviewed and raised your prices in the past 12 months? It's probably time. When I started raising my prices, I didn't make huge jumps all at once. I did it gradually, communicating clearly, and showing value through my work. And something amazing happened. The right customers stayed. The ones who valued quality and craftsmanship understood why my pricing changed. That's what you want: customers who value your work, not just your price tag. If you're working on your pricing, here's where I'd start. Know your costs, write everything down, even the small stuff like parchment paper and boxes. Pay yourself. Your time counts. Don't forget to include your labor. Research your market. Look at what others charge, not to copy, but to understand where you fit. Communicate your value. People will pay more when they understand what makes your work special and then review regularly. Costs change, skills grow. Don't wait years to make adjustments. Pricing isn't about greed, it's about sustainability. You deserve to be paid for your time, your craft, and your expertise. And when your pricing reflects that, your business can grow without burning you out. So take a look at your current pricing. Does it truly cover your costs? Are you paying yourself fairly? Does your price reflect the quality and experience you deliver? Start where you are and build up from there. Because confidence and clarity around pricing don't come overnight. They come with experience, consistency, and a little courage. All right, we've talked about pricing, the ingredient that keeps your business sustainable. Now, let's move on to the final ingredient in this recipe for success: community. I like to think of community as the secret sauce. It's what brings everything together and gives your business longevity. I mentioned it earlier. There's an African proverb I love that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's really the heartbeat of this ingredient. Because no matter how talented, organized, or driven you are, you need community. The right people around you will keep you grounded, inspired, and supported as your business evolves. One of the biggest lessons I've learned over the years is this: you need to find the community you need now, not necessarily the one you want to be in someday. It's so easy to look at someone else's business or network and think, that's where I want to be. But sometimes the community you're dreaming of, the one that looks shiny and polished, it might not be the right one for you right now. Maybe you're not there yet financially. Maybe the energy or goals don't align with your current season, and that's okay. The community you need is the one that helps you grow right where you are. When I first started Dani's Kitchen Shop, my community was my friends and my family. They were my cheerleaders, my first customers, my recipe testers. They supported me in every way possible. As I grew, that circle expanded. It became other bakers, creative business owners, and people who understood the challenges of turning passion into livelihood. Then it became my team: Mercedes, Alyssa, Michelle, Amy, the people who help bring my vision to life every single week. And now I'm in a new season, one where I'm intentionally building professional communities through things like my Radiate dinners and buying into memberships where I want a seat at the table. These spaces are designed for genuine connection, not networking for the sake of networking, but sitting down at a table together, sharing real stories, lessons, and encouragement. I'm realizing that the communities we build can evolve as we evolve, and that's a good thing. I also want to say something that doesn't get talked about enough. You don't have to stay in a community that doesn't work for you anymore. Sometimes you outgrow a space, or maybe it never quite aligned with your values or direction. That's okay. You're allowed to shift. You're allowed to find a new table that feels more like home. What matters most is that your communities support the authentic you, the version of you who's showing up right now, not the version you think you have to be. So, if you're listening and wondering where to find your people, here's where I'd start. Start with who's around you. Look for like minded people who are in a similar season. Even one or two can make a difference. Be open and generous. The best way to build community is to show up and give first. Advice, encouragement, referrals, whatever you can offer. Don't force it. Not every group or relationship will fit. That's normal. Keep evolving. As your business grows, your circle will too. You don't need to sit at the big table yet. Just start your table and make it a place where people can grow together. So, whether your community today looks like a few close friends, a small group of fellow creatives, or a professional network, you're just starting to build. Honor that. You don't have to go fast. You just have to go together. Because community, the right community, is what will keep you moving forward, even when things get hard. And that wraps up this episode. The recipe for business success. We talked about the 5 ingredients that make your business thrive: mission, brand, systems, pricing, and community. Each one plays a role, and when they come together, that's where the magic happens. If you loved this episode, take a second and share it with another small business owner who might need to hear it. And make sure to subscribe, because next we'll be diving into pricing without guilt. Another step in building a business and a lifestyle you truly love. Thanks for tuning in to Mixing Up Success. I'm your host, Dani Anella, baker, business mentor, and creative at heart. If today's episode inspired you, take a moment to share it with a friend who's building their own recipe for success. And if you're ready to grow your business with clarity and confidence, visit daniskitchenshop.com and join my email list, or learn more about my upcoming Business of Baking course, where we turn passion into a plan that actually works. Until next time, keep creating, keep connecting, and keep mixing up your own version of success.